Hi, I'm Catherine Trice with Arrowhead Deck, and we get a lot of questions about the price of concrete pours, and there's a lot of variables that go into determining what the cost would be associated with that. So I wanted to touch on some of those options so that you could make the best decision for your particular project. First off, concrete is a very rigid material that is prone to cracking. Cracks can come from slope, weight bearing, movement of the earth, tension. There's a lot of different causes for cracks to occur in the concrete. There are some upgrades depending on how you use that particular space that may be of benefit, but would be an unnecessary expense if it was just for a general walk area, for instance. Other prices that could be impacted were how you want the finish to look at the end of the job. You could add color to a concrete, you could stamp it, you could use some different finishes, and you could also put on an overlay. Those are all going to be different variables based on how you want the finished product to look. You could also change the PSI for load bearing or add rebar, which I'll talk about in a minute. The PSI is the per square inch pressure that the concrete can withstand. So that's another option. The thickness of the concrete will also have another factor. Standard concrete pour is 4 inches, but you could also make a thicker pour depending if you are filling in a lower spot or if you want more load-bearing capacity. Any access issues that we might have as far as whether it's on a ground level or another floor, if we have the use of a snorkel or a backhoe for removal, any pumps that we would use for access from where we can park our concrete truck, and the use of dumpsters would also be applicable charges that would fall in line with your concrete pour. Some of these can be avoided. For instance, if you want to keep the material on site, if it was a sod or grass and you want to just move it to another part of the property, that certainly could reduce your cost for the dump. Forming and framing could be an additional cost depending on how intricate that you're looking to have your pour. Since you have so many different options with concrete, it's a very flexible material as far as style and design. You can do all kinds of fun stuff, and just depends on how you live in that space. Upgrades such as mesh, rebar, and fiber are all upgrades that are not necessarily included and not necessarily a good fit for all applications. Where there's load bearing, we typically recommend rebar. Rebar, however, can float to the top and poke out or fall to the bottom during the installation process and can be considered an unnecessary expense if it's not for a true load bearing capacity. Rebar is meant to counterbalance when there is load bearing. So the concrete itself maintains its rigidity and can still crack, but the rebar gives it a little bit more bendability, so it gives it a bit more structural soundness when it does crack. Metal bends, the concrete won't, so it won't prevent cracks. Concrete is more of a sponge-like type of material where it absorbs water, and rebar can be exposed to the water that gets pulled through the concrete, and then it will rust, and it can actually cause a lack of integrity in that concrete as the rust makes the metal shale. Metal mesh will prevent cracks from shrink, but it will not necessarily create structural soundness or cosmetic cracks from being formed. It's not the best for weight bearing either, as it's a much thinner metal. And another option that you have is fiber mesh, and that is primarily for structural integrity. When it does crack, it reduces the severity of the crack. It also has a bit more of a fuzzy finish because it's mixed in with the concrete when it's blended. We can put a coating on the top of this so you don't have that fuzzy finish, and then make that area match all the other concrete in the area with the finish. But it is not necessarily the best for all applications. I hope that I was able to answer some of your questions, but if you have more, we're more than happy to answer those for you. Give us a call at 602-833-8560 or visit us on the web at www.arrowheaddeck.com, and we'll look forward to hearing from you.